I'm sure one day they'll remember how to make a decent movie again. Unfortunately though, today is not that day.
Nope.
The Fantastic Four First Steps is not a very good movie. In fact, it's quite a bad movie. I went in with rather low expectations, and I'd say they were pretty much met. The plot is complete nonsense, our main group don't really get much in terms of character development. The villains were pretty fucking stupid. Basically, all the shit you've come to expect with a post-Infinity Saga MCU project is present here. I guess I didn't hate myself whilst watching it, so that's something. I guess you could say we're making progress. Let's talk about what actually happens in this film then, shall we? The movie opens with a montage spanning the first 4 years of the Fantastic Four. We hear about the initial incident in outer space that gave them all their different powers. They each use their powers to help save people. All good so far. Sue manages to broker a peace deal between Mole Man's underground subterranea and the surface. She also announces the creation of the Future Foundation, and that all participating countries have agreed to dismantle their armed forces. Why would they do that? At this point, the Fantastic Four have only been around for a few years. Are you telling me the countries of this Earth just trust them enough to completely dismantle their militaries? What if the Fantastic Four were to hypothetically go away for a while? On a mission or something to stop a big evil man? Maybe for an extended period of time, say a month? This may all sound oddly specific, but I promise you it has no relevance at all. Why are you all dismantling your armed forces because of 4 superpowered beings in fucking New York? In the next scene, Sue has a big announcement to make at dinner. After 2 years of trying, she's finally pregnant with a baby boy. It's a nice little scene. Before Sue reveals anything, you see Ben's expressions as he manages to put it together, which is a decent way of showing the friendship these two characters share without just blurting it out through dialogue. Next, Johnny pays Reed a visit just as a transmission from space is received. Reed believes this transmission is similar to others he's received recently, and so gives it to Johnny to try and decipher. At the same time, Reed's running a bridge teleportation test, and he manages to move an egg 6 meters away. As a result of the high amount of energy used to conduct this test, the power in New York cuts out. Damn, teleporting an egg cuts the power to New York. Could you imagine he tried to teleport something bigger, maybe Earth-size? That'd be fucking crazy. That same evening, New York is paid a visit by the Silver Surfer. She announces that this Earth has been marked for death and that the world will be consumed by a big hungry being named Galactus. The real Galactus this time, not the fart cloud. Silver Surfer then heads off, it was only a brief visit, and is followed by Johnny. Once they reach space, she speaks a sentence to him in an alien language, and he's like, whoa, that's crazy, before being shoved off the board. This is going to become a big deal a bit later on, so remember it. After discovering 5 planets have already been consumed by Galactus in another system, the group decides it's probably best to go and try and negotiate with him. Sue comes with them on this mission. Not sure why she'd go, considering she's heavily pregnant. Weird how neither Johnny nor Ben seem to question it, and Reed mentions it like once to her before she quickly changes the conversation. Seems like a very risky decision, but okay. They depart in their ship and travel faster than the speed of light to the LHS-275 system. Once they arrive, they witness a planet right in front of them being destroyed by Galactus' ship. They navigate through all of the debris before being stopped and pulled in by a tractor beam. A scanner then sweeps over their ship before eventually zooming in on Sue's stomach. I bet you're really regretting coming now. Once they arrive on board, they're greeted by the Silver Surfer who leads them to Galactus. Whilst they're on their way, Johnny asks her if she can translate the sentence she spoke to him earlier. She reveals it was a blessing that meant die with yours. Again, this will become relevant later, unfortunately. Oh wow, it's the guy from Fortnite. Galactus then dumps a shitload of exposition, essentially explaining that he will spare Earth in exchange for Reed and Sue's baby boy. He wants the child to take his throne because he's bored of being a fat hungry fuck and he can't be bothered to eat any more planets. You heard that right, our main antagonist's motivation is basically that he's bored. That's just fantastic.
Say that again?
Galactus then stares at Sue and this sends her into labour. I guess that's a thing he can just do. The writers are very vague about what Galactus' powers actually are in this movie. Next, our group gets back into the ship and they re-enter FTL. Unfortunately for them though, the Silver Surfer is right on their tail. They then stumble across a black hole which they're able to use to help them escape. Sue uses her powers to turn the ship invisible, which then tricks the Silver Surfer into following the FTL system into the black hole. Not exactly sure why you'd follow them into a black hole. Seems a bit silly. Right after they escape, Reed comforts Sue as she gives birth to Franklin. They do use a CGI baby, but you'll be pleased to know he looks better than the one Ezra Miller microwaved. The group arrive back on Earth and are greeted by the press. Reed reveals that they attempted to negotiate with Galactus, but he asked for too high a price in return for sparing Earth. He then stupidly reveals to the entire world that what Galactus wants is their child. You could have just said, we tried to negotiate but it went south. Or you could have just gone with, he wasn't up for negotiating at all. Instead, you've opted to tell the world that everyone's gonna die unless you give up your newborn child. Why? All the public outrage and tension that follows could have been easily avoided. Smartest man alive, Reed Richards, everyone. What a fucking idiot. After the disastrous press conference and news of increased public outrage and protest, Sue goes outside the Baxter building to deliver a speech. The speech doesn't really offer anything in terms of a solution to the Galactus problem. She just kinda reinforces how she won't sacrifice her child for the world and essentially says, we'll figure something out. Miraculously, this manages to get everyone back on the side of the Fantastic Four. Not quite sure how, considering nothing's really changed. Galactus is still on his way and no one has yet come up with a plan. The people of this world seemingly have a really bipolar relationship with the Fantastic Four. At the beginning of the film, everyone's so devoted to them to the point where countries have dismantled their armed forces because they're apparently just that trustworthy. Something I'm sure they're all regretting right about now. But then, when things go wrong, the world turns on them to such a degree that a group of people form a cult around the man on his way to fucking eat them. Luckily though, it turns out all it takes is a bit of a substanceless morale boost to get everyone back on side again. Okay. Thankfully, on the way back inside the Baxter building, Reed actually manages to devise a genius plan to save the world from the big scary man. His plan is to teleport the Earth.
We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
Yes, Patrick, yes! You can rest easy tonight knowing you and the smartest man alive are on the same wavelength. What the fuck do you mean you're gonna teleport the Earth? There are a lot of things you've got to account for.
We will create teleportation bridges spanning the globe. They will be synchronized and interconnected, capable of transporting our planet to a new solar system within a 2% margin of the inhabitable zone.
A 2% margin? Do you not understand what a 2% difference could potentially mean for Earth? That could have a dire effect on a shit ton of things. Seems incredibly fucking risky, especially when there are definitely better options. So, the way in which they intend to enact this genius plan is by building synchronized teleportation bridges in different countries across the globe and use them to transport the Earth to another solar system. We've gone from teleporting an egg 6 meters, not a particularly big egg either mind you, to teleporting the fucking planet. What about the moon? Is the moon coming with you as well? Has the smartest man alive accounted for what the other planets in the solar system mean for the survival of Earth? This seems like a really smart and well thought out plan. You may also be thinking, how could they possibly generate enough energy to actually power these teleportation bridges? Teleporting an egg 6 meters shut down the power in New York. Surely they'd never be able to create enough energy to transport the planet. Well, you see, that's where you're wrong, because they introduce an energy curfew where everyone has to turn off their power by 8 PM. If you're on a ventilator in a hospital, I think you're dead. Anyway, some time has passed and it's now time to turn on the bridges and get out of here. All the countries simultaneously switch on their respective bridges and... oh no. How unlucky is it that she came 5 seconds before you were about to escape? What are the chances of that? So, the Silver Surfer destroys all the teleportation bridges, except the one in New York luckily, because Johnny stops her just in the nick of time. Johnny then follows her to the middle of Times Square and he proceeds to play transmissions sent from her home planet. Somehow he's able to translate them and reveals Silver Surfer's real name Shalabal as well as her backstory. He then plays a bunch of transmissions from planets that she and Galactus helped destroy. For some reason this overwhelms her to such a level that she flees? I don't get this. You knew all of this suffering was happening. You literally go down to the planets to warn everyone about how they're about to die. Why is this such a massive revelation to you? Well, the Fantastic Four are now in a state of panic as their really intelligent plan to teleport the Earth has been foiled. Luckily though, they managed to come up with a new plan relatively quickly. Why don't we just bring Galactus down here? We can send the people of New York to the underground subterranea and use our one remaining bridge, that is conveniently still standing thanks to Johnny, to teleport him away from Earth. A few things here. First of all, why the fuck wasn't this plan A? I feel like teleporting Galactus away probably should have come before teleporting the Earth to another solar system. There's a lot less variables you'd have to consider when you're not planning on teleporting the planet. Secondly, this plan is still flawed as shit anyway. The idea is to lure Galactus to the teleportation bridge by placing Franklin beneath it, then have someone switch it on, opening a portal sending him far away. Now, here's the thing. I don't know why any of them are assuming Galactus would even come down. He could just send the Silver Surfer to collect Franklin. He could beam Franklin up to his ship. You know he has a beam, so why wouldn't you assume he'd use it? Also, say Galactus does come down, are you all just hoping he's gonna walk up to the really obvious trap? On top of all of that, you've sent everyone underground despite the fact that Galactus is a pretty fucking big fella who could potentially fall into your subterranea. I'm sure this will all work out just fine. Anyway, he's here now, but before he does anything, he must sniff some soil. He gives it a big sniff for reasons. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is what he does every time he's about to eat a planet. He goes down and sniffs it before deeming, this is acceptable. Then he makes his way to the teleportation bridge where Franklin is and is ambushed by the group. Are you... Oh no. You've had telekinesis this entire time? Why the fuck didn't you use it to stop them from escaping your ship, you silly twat? You could have won right there and then. Oh dear, I think I'm experiencing a brain hemorrhage. Anyway, back to the fight. Johnny shoots fire into his eye, temporarily blinding him. This gives them the opportunity to switch out Franklin with an empty baby carrier. Johnny then moves Franklin to the Baxter building. Why? You're telling me out of every building in this city, you've decided to move Franklin to the only one with your fucking logo on the side. This is not a very fantastic plan. Galactus keeps walking up to the bridge and stops right before the marked out zone. Clearly, he's realised it's some sort of trap because how couldn't you? However, he doesn't think to destroy the really obvious trap. I'm not sure why. If he destroys it, he wins. You're all very lucky he just left the bridge alone. He then scans the Baxter building and realises Franklin's there. Who could have seen that coming? He makes his way over to the Baxter building whilst the Fantastic Four do their best to try and stop him in his tracks. Johnny sets him on fire, Ben flings a crane at him, but that ends up backfiring because he's then thrown into space. Reed starts poking him with a pole before he gets stretched like a rubber band. It's all going a bit not very fantastic. Johnny flies up to rescue Ben, and we finally get the line.
No, Johnny.
Wow, he's totally unfazed. Galactus then grabs Franklin from the Baxter building, and all seems a bit lost. What happens next is probably one of the most irritating sequences in the entire film. After taking Franklin, Galactus heads back the way he came, down the same road that the teleportation bridge is on. How can you possibly be this dumb? Sue then proceeds to use her powers to push Galactus for what feels like 15 minutes down the road towards the bridge. Johnny's ready on the controls, Ben destroys the foundations of a building to stop Galactus from holding on, and Reed goes up to rescue Franklin. How is Sue powerful enough to push Galactus for this long? He's been falling backwards, unable to do anything for ages. Once Galactus reaches the bridge, Johnny opens the portal and Sue pushes him inside. Woo, we won, let's go, wow, wow. Well, I guess there's one payoff we haven't had yet. Where's the Silver Surfer? Wow, you just completely stole that moment from Johnny. You selfish bastard, sacrificing yourself like that. And there he goes. They actually did it somehow. Oh yeah, Sue's dead, by the way. Pushing Galactus for that length of time actually took her out. You know, having her sacrifice herself to save Franklin after everything they've gone through in this film, that's something. It'd be a tragic ending to her character, but at least she went out having saved the world and her child. Something that seemed a near impossibility just a short while ago. Anyway, she comes back to life because Franklin just has the ability to heal people. I guess there's just no stakes anymore because whenever any of them are in danger, Franklin can just heal them back to life. I can't be bothered anymore, please just end, thank you. Jesus Christ. Oh wait, hang on, nope, there's more. We see Sue as she goes to get another book to read to Franklin. Whilst doing so, she hears a strange noise coming from the other side of the room. She walks over and sees a cloaked Dr. Doom with Franklin. Wow, I feel like I'm supposed to feel a bit more excited. Turns out releasing 80 projects in the span of 5 years, 95% of which are bad, can have a negative impact on your viewing experience. Who'd have thought? And that's the Fantastic Four first steps, everyone. It's not good. It's definitely not good. After an okay start, the film seemed to gradually lose its shit, with the third act fully nosediving off a cliff. The plot completely falls apart when you give it any thought, the characters really don't get any substantial development. I mean, Reed probably gets the most depth, but even then they needed to go further with him as I don't think there's enough here. For example, there's a scene where we see he's thought about giving up Franklin to save the world, and he goes as far as saying it's mathematical, ethical, and available. Reed having this thought makes sense, because of course that would be something that would cross the mind of someone in his position. Sue's like, I don't like it when you think that way, and that's pretty much all we get in terms of a moral debate between these two. The movie barely makes an attempt to show them both trying to understand each other's perspectives. This could have been interesting stuff, but oh well. They both also make some pretty stupid decisions throughout the movie. Like, why are you going to confront a planet devourer when you're heavily pregnant? Seems like an unjustifiably risky move. Reed's moments of stupidity are definitely more egregious, seeing as he's supposed to be the smartest guy on the planet. Ah yeah, let's just tell everyone that if we gave Galactus our child, everyone would survive. That definitely won't cause a massive uproar. Oh shit, Galactus is coming to eat us all, what do we do? I know, let's teleport the fucking planet. As for the other two members of the group, Johnny barely gets anything. I thought they were going somewhere with him and the Silver Surfer, but nope. His main thing is he manages to learn a language based off 3 words. Not sure how out of everyone in the group, Johnny is the one who's smart enough to do this. Seems like something Reed might be able to do, not Johnny. Ben's character was pretty lackluster as well. I remember seeing the shot in the trailer with him watching old footage of himself on the TV screen. I thought we were going to tackle him coming to terms with the incident and how it's affected his life since then, but nope, we don't delve into that at all. As for the villains, the Silver Surfer was a complete waste. Sure, we get a brief glimpse at her backstory, which is something, I guess. However, her switch from serving this genocidal entity to realising maybe what she's doing isn't very good was very rushed. Galactus was even more of a letdown. His entire motivation basically boiled down to he's bored and he wanted someone else to eat planets instead. What an interesting motivation for our main antagonist. He's also just a bit of a clown at multiple instances throughout. Like, why did you go down to Earth when you could have just beamed Franklin up? Why did you walk back towards the teleportation bridge when you know they're trying to use it to trap you? Why didn't you use your telekinetic powers to stop the Fantastic Four from leaving your ship in the first place, you fuck? He wasn't even that big in the movie, he was barely taller than Liberty Island. I thought we were going to see him change sizes, but no. He was bigger in fucking Fortnite. I love Fortnite. As much as I've been shitting on this movie for the last 15 minutes, there were a few redeeming aspects that I think are worth mentioning. As per usual, the actors are giving it their all, trying to squeeze as much out of the script as possible. The performances have consistently been the best aspect of these films over the past few years, and this movie definitely follows that trend. Visually, I'd say this was a step up from what we've come to expect from Marvel. I quite liked the 60s retro futuristic aesthetic they were going for. Galactus' design was also really cool. The effects when the group were using their powers were mostly solid as well. Feels weird to be praising a recent MCU project on its visuals, but I'd definitely say it's warranted here. I guess the biggest compliment I can give this movie is, sure, it's not quite as bad as many of the recent projects the MCU has been shouting out as of late. We're not at Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man Quantumania, or Thor Love and Thunder levels of garbage here. In fact, the Fantastic Four is probably the 3rd best MCU movie in this multiverse saga, behind No Way Home and Guardians 3. The issue with saying that is the bar is literally on the floor. I'm not sure if being the 3rd best movie in this saga is something worth celebrating. Instead of being a 1 or a 2 out of 10, this is a 3 or maybe even a fantastic 4 out of 10. I really don't understand the high levels of praise people seem to be giving Thunderbolts and now this. Just because they're slightly better than a lot of the other shit doesn't mean we should give them a pass. Go rewatch the first Iron Man or Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers. Then rewatch these and you'll realise there's a very big gap in quality. At this point, I'm just excited to see the potentially unprecedented levels of shite Avengers Doomsday manages to reach. Every new piece of information we receive about this movie sounds horrendous, which actually makes me more excited. They began filming the movie before finalising deals with numerous cast members. They had to completely ditch the Kang storyline because Jonathan Majors decided playing a supervillain wasn't enough for him. He wanted to be one in real life. Alleged writer, convicted jester Michael Waldron was recently confirmed to be working on the script, which is just wonderful. I am so eager to see his incredible talent on display after his brilliant work on Loki and Multiverse of Madness.
And the smartest man alive, Reed Richards.
Wanda, Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
What mouth?
Yeah, that's definitely a case of me just not knowing what to do with the script.
What dirt does this guy have on the higher-ups at Marvel? I must know now.
Oh, so you're still a writer on Doomsday?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I know production's going on right now. Has it been a success?
Rebecca Romaine, who's set to reprise her role as Mystique from the original X-Men films, recently stated in an interview that she doesn't know whether she's finished filming all of her scenes for the film yet, because the script isn't actually done.
Are you done shooting your scenes?
Not quite sure. The script they haven't finished writing it.
They've been filming for 3 months. What do you mean the script isn't done yet? Also, yeah, bringing back the original X-Men cast is desperate as fuck. It just comes across as you having no faith in the heroes you've introduced in this phase. So now you're needing to rely on having actors reprise the roles of characters you didn't even fucking create. They're definitely not going to do anything interesting with them, let's be honest. Multiverse of Madness brought back Patrick Stewart as Professor X just to have him repeat a line then get his neck snapped. Why should we assume this time will be any different? Also, how embarrassing that you literally had a line in Deadpool and Wolverine joking about Hugh Jackman playing Logan till he's 90, only to then less than a year later have an 87-year-old Ian McKellen reprise his role as Magneto. What a shit show. On top of all of this, interest in the franchise as a whole is at an all-time low. They've never been in a worse position going into an Avengers movie. Hardly anybody's watching the Disney Plus shows. Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts both underperformed at the box office. The latter having a pretty important post-credits scene that barely anyone will have seen. A big chunk of the audience who end up seeing Doomsday won't have a fucking clue who any of these people are. Remember how strong the MCU was going into Endgame? They could put out a Captain Marvel movie and make $1 billion because the hype was so strong. These movies are now barely scraping 400 million. To ensure success, it seems you've either got to be a cameo fest, a holdover from a better era, or a Spider-Man movie. I guess it's a good thing Spider-Man's next, so you can go into your Doomsday on a little high. Although, that movie's inevitable success will have nothing to do with the current state of the MCU. People just quite like Spider-Man. The Fantastic Four ended up dropping 67% in its second weekend at the box office, becoming the 7th biggest drop for any MCU film. These movies clearly aren't making as much as they used to when the studios have no one to blame but themselves. The mindset of thinking you could shit out any old garbage and people would still show up to see it has clearly backfired. That's not to say there isn't still an appetite for these movies. No Way Home, Deadpool and Wolverine and Guardians 3 all did pretty well. But it's clear we've gone from MCU flops being the exception to them becoming the norm. You've fast-tracked whatever superhero fatigue that would inevitably arrive so much that 6 years after you release the biggest movie of all time, we find ourselves at a point where a film about the first ever superhero team won't even make its money back. I don't know how you do much worse than this. Anyway, I think that's just about everything I've got to say. This movie stinks. I wouldn't waste your time or money seeing it. Go watch F1 or something instead. F1 better than F4. That's it, bye bye.